Good morning. It's 10 o'clock and we are now going to convene our State Canvassing Board meeting. For the record, Governor Gordon is present, Treasurer Meyer is present, Auditor Racines, and myself, Secretary of State Allred, are present. We're convening this morning in accordance with Wyoming Statute 2216-118, which states that the State Canvassing Board shall meet no later than the second Wednesday following the election. The board shall review the state abstracts prepared by the Secretary of State and certify the abstract as the official state canvass. Let's see, I think with that, I'll bring my introductory remarks to a close and might interject some here in the middle and invite Director Sean to present an overview of the election and walk us through the state abstract. Director Sean, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, State Canvassing Board. This has been my 8th election now, serving as the election director, and the 8th time I've been able to be in front of this board to present the statewide abstract and talk about the conduct of the election, and it's been a privilege. And it's a privilege to be here this morning. This meeting is being streamed live again, so members can certainly tune in and hear this meeting and see the business that you all are conducting. As in every State Canvassing Board meeting, I always want to give kudos to the staff at the Secretary of State's office, because the election division, you know, is made up of only 3, and we do a lot of work. There's a lot of different things that we accomplish, but we cannot do the magnitude that a statewide canvassing board results prep entails and needs. And so we pull from, I'd say, roughly 20 or so others from the office to help prepare what you all have before you today. And so I will actually turn and see whoever was a part of the team from the SOS office, if you could stand so we could just recognize you. Thank you again for your service. Mr. Chairman and the board, I'd like to give just some preliminary information about the conduct of the election. Won't require any action from the board, but just a little overview. Currently, we have now conducted 2 election cycles on our new voting equipment. So we've had 4 elections in total. Still is performing very well. Counties are very happy with their equipment and still receive word from judges and voters of how easy it is to use. And so we had a great success again this year. There was one circumstance involving an express vote that I'll get to later in my remarks, as well as 2 media sticks when uploading election results that I'll talk about briefly as well. As in years past, our office provided support staff from the election system and software that was within our office, served as really our own personal help desk as issues would come up, and they could walk them through it. And we also had the state plane available should we need to fly to any county to be hands-on to address an issue. And thankfully, everything was able to be taken care of at the local level. As I mentioned during the canvassing board meeting after the primary election, former Secretary Buchanan, he spent a considerable amount of time traveling the state, and he was conducting election integrity and security presentations to various audiences. And the purpose of those presentations was to dispel common election-related myths, clarify just the election results reporting process, and really just an effort of educating voters on elections in general. So there were 17 presentations that were conducted, 12 counties being visited. There was virtual presentations to organizations that had statewide membership. And there was also 2 presentations that was delivered to the legislature. And Mr. Chairman, Secretary Allred, I want to thank you for picking up really where Secretary Buchanan left off and continuing with that mantra of dispelling those myths and our process and standing up for the integrity of the elections that we have. Further, for working graciously with the county clerks to identify areas that can be tightened up. And so thank you for your work on that as well. I also encourage the incoming administration under Representative Gray and his team to continue the same mantra and to further the efforts that we've so diligently strived for to rekindle hope where needed in our process by dismantling those lies as they come up about the rampant fraud in Wyoming's election process and to spread the truth. And the truth is we have safe, secure, accessible elections with integrity. We had that in 2022, we had that in 2020, 2018, 2016, and the list goes on. There were no statutorily required recounts. There was no write-in significant enough to impact outcomes, and each major and minor party retained their party status. The single issue that I mentioned earlier that took place with our voting equipment, it was 5 express votes that was here in Laramie County, and they were periodically or sporadically printing some ballots with smudge marks on them, which made it unreadable by the tabulator. So what happened in that case, because there's always, a remedy, there's a way to address these. So those voters, they spoiled their ballot like any voter can do, and they received a new ballot, went to a different express vote, was able to cast their votes and run their ballot through the tabulator. So every voter was taken care of. And in addition to that, the county clerk's office dispatched 5 spare express votes to replace the 5 ones that they had noticed this periodic, happening of smudge marks, and they didn't have that issue for the rest of the day. So bottom line, every voter was able to cast their vote, and just a few were encountered that issue with those express votes. In Albany and Converse County, they both had election media sticks, one in each county, that did not upload results into their electionware computer. And so they worked with ES&S and wanted to walk through what the best practice for that was. And so the best practice was to reburn another media stick, and they'd have to put that back into the tabulator and with a bipartisan group of election judges, rerun those particular ballots, which is what they did. And furthermore, this is just a little, hope I explained this well enough. At each tabulator, when you close it down, it's called closing the polls, it generates a tape of all the activity that took place on that specific machine. And so they did that on those machines of which the media sticks came out of that couldn't be uploaded into the electionware. So they had a tape of what took place on it, even though the electionware couldn't read the results on the stick, right? So when they reprogrammed the stick, put in a tabulator, ran those same ballots through, they could compare those tapes, see that they matched. Additionally, they could also reconcile with their poll books. So we still had that 1-to-1 ratio. And so we had that process in place, and it worked. And it certainly speaks to the integrity of our process and the way that we can resolve issues as they come up so we can continue to have election results that we can be proud of and trust in. There's always contingency plans in place. We have emergency managers that are ready to assist, and they do. They step in and they help where needed. And simply we have a process that our office is very proud of. Our county clerks are very proud of, and every Wyomingite should be proud of our election process in place today. To further that point, we had a post-election audit again of voted ballots in all 23 counties. We piloted this in the primary election just this past August. And for those that may be present here or online that didn't get to hear some of the spiel during the primary election canvassing board meeting, I'll just give a little bit of the backstory as to why this was an effort that we took on. Prior to this year, the only post-election audit that we had in place simply dealt with the tabulator itself. And so there's test ballots that every county uses before the election to test all of their tabulators, and it has to tabulate with 100% accuracy. After the election, they use those same test ballots on a small percentage of those tabulators to see if it's still reading with 100% accuracy. And so the idea is what took place during the election was also being tabulated with 100% accuracy. So that was the idea there. But we wanted to go further. We wanted to look at actual ballots that were being voted and look at exactly how the tabulator adjudicated that specific ballot. And so that was the task we took on. We started this back in 2020, actually in August. So again, it was even prior to all the narratives about the 2020 general election. So we were already thinking through this before a lot of those those narratives started circulating and exploding our social media feeds. So we decided to work with the University of Wyoming, their Department of Mathematics and Statistics, and Professor Giroux, he's the director of the program in statistics, and he was super helpful to our office. He answered our phone calls, he met with us, he essentially delivered a model that we're using that is defensible and it's statistically significant. And so he provided for us this tool, and it considers the race with the closest margin of observable difference to determine a sample size. And a sample size is just simply a race on the ballot, or a question on the ballot. And when you audit that statistically significant number, at the end of it, we can say that we have a 99% confidence level in the election result, the election as a whole, by auditing this sample size using the binomial distribution calculation that Mr. Giroux put together for us. And I'm happy to report again that in all 23 counties, there was no issues encountered. Everything was tabulated correctly. Sometimes you wonder, like, what's going to happen this time? But everything was tabulated correctly, 100% accuracy. So that speaks further to the integrity that we have in our elections. And I'll just clarify even more so, the ballots that were pulled, they were pulled at random, and it would incorporate absentee ballots. It would incorporate some of these express vote ballots, which is like those half sheets of paper. The whole gamut is part of that random sample of what was being audited. There's information in regards to this audit in your summary packet. And if you have that with you on your tablets or smart devices, or maybe you printed one out, you could turn there now. And nothing in there requires any action. But after the cover page, you're going to see the Canvassing Board statutes, which Chairman Allred already spoke to as to why we're convening today on Wednesday, the second Wednesday after the election. The next page is the agenda, and you'll see we're already on the third bullet. And if you turn that page again, you'll see the summary information on that post-election audit, which I just spoke of. And I wanted to point out that in this election, we audited 13,116 contests, which translates to 2,186 ballots that were selected at random. And if you remember from the primary election, we had done roughly 3,000 ballots. And that's because we had closer margins across the state, a lot of contested races. And so that's how the math works. The closer the election results are, the more ballots are audited to get that 99% success and confidence level. Moving on to voter turnout. If you go to the next page, you'll see the total ballots cast, and it's broken down by county with total participation of 198,198. That's an easy number to remember. The next page is the voter turnout statistics, which I know we're familiar with. And if you would look at that top row all the way to the right, you'll see that the turnout of voting age population for this election was at 44.4%. Now, this is the lowest percentage since 2014, and it's actually the second lowest for a Wyoming general election in Wyoming's history on the books. And as this is my last Canvassing Board meeting, I prefer not to dwell on that fact. Usually we're talking about how great our turnout, is. So I'd like to highlight that we had 297,639 registered voters the morning of the general election. And that is the highest number of registered voters we've ever had in the history of Wyoming just prior to an election taking place. So I'll hang my hat on that. And I should also add that that number is continuing to grow today as the counties are entering in their election day registrations. And I thought I might mention in the past on that voter statistics report, you may recall when we did voter turnout of registered voters. I don't know if you remember any of that, but it was kind of a fun little statistic because it would show oftentimes that we had 103%, turnout in a county, or 100%. And it was kind of just a fun statistic. Well, the fun is now gone because those numbers are being looked at very closely. And so the reason we got rid of that, if you're wondering, is because, again, the registered voters, we take that snapshot before the election takes place. And that number is being used to the total ballots cast, which includes people that are registering on election day. So that's why we would see that over 100% or 100%. It was fun. It's not anymore, so we got rid of it. We're looking at voting age population, which makes the most sense because those other two variables really should not belong together. So that's why that is gone. We'll find other ways to have fun with elections, though.
Mr. Chairman.
Good, Mr. Governor.
Thank you. Kai, thanks for this. I note that, and I'm sure, I hope I'm reading this correctly, from the primary election, 287,014 voters to the general, 297,639. Would that reflect people that registered during the primary?
Mr. Chairman, Governor Gordon, the 287,014 for the primary election does not include election day registrations. And of course, the number 297,639 for the general election does have those election day registrations from the primary.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. The candidate participation, we had, well, there's 84 races, right? 1 federal, 5 statewide, and 78 legislative races. 43 of those races were uncontested. There was a total of 132 candidates that participated in this 2022 general election. Additionally, there are 14 judges that stood for retention, and there was 2 constitutional amendments. I already mentioned there was no write-in significant enough to impact any outcomes, but I did want to note that there was 39,134 combined write-ins for the 6 statewide races. I've never seen so many write-ins. So that's a significant number of people exercising their constitutional right to write in whoever they would like for that office. Our statewide voter registration system, again, it performed as expected, provided registry lists as needed and other data as necessary. And Mr. Chairman, with your permission, I'd like to walk the board through the 2022 statewide general election abstract.
Go ahead, Director.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The statewide abstract was verified, compared, reconciled. It's been audited. In the first section, it begins with 24 pages of total ballots cast data. The first page is the total ballots cast statewide, which is broken down by county, with the totals at the bottom, and you'll see that number again of 198,198 total ballots cast. Following the statewide ballots cast is the county's total ballots cast, which is also broken down by precinct. And if you wanted to, you could see the total ballots cast at the very bottom for each county and see how they reconcile to our statewide total ballots cast. Following the total ballots cast section is the 6 pages containing the statewide candidate summary, and each race is broken down by county with totals at the bottom, and the winners are in bold and underlined. And I'll go ahead and just read off the winners for those contests. The first race is for the U.S. Representative with Ms. Harriet Hageman as the clear winner with 132,206 votes. Second race is the gubernatorial race with Governor Mark Gordon being reelected with a total of 143,696 votes. Congratulations, Governor. In the Secretary of State race, Representative Chuck Gray won the uncontested race with a total of 147,402 votes. In the state auditor race, Auditor Christy Racines was reelected with 161,543 votes, which I will highlight and say that was the highest number of votes cast for any candidate in the 2022 general election. So the prize goes to Auditor Racines. I don't have a prize, but okay. Bragging rights at least? I don't know, but congratulations. In the state treasurer race, Treasurer Kurt Meyer was reelected with 159,626 votes. Congratulations, Treasurer Meyer. And in the superintendent of public instruction race, Ms. Megan Degenfelder was the winner with 142,544 votes. And if you follow along to the next section in the abstract, it's 16 pages containing the statewide summary of the 16 state Senate races. And they're broken down by county with totals at the bottom. And again, the winners in bold and underlined. We're not going to read through each of those winners. The next section is 62 pages, and that contains the statewide summary of the 62 state house races. Again, that's broken down by county with totals at the bottom, winners in bold and underlined. The next section, it's 14 pages long, and this contains the judicial retention summary for all district and circuit court judges. Every judge was retained. There was no Supreme Court justices on the ballot for this 2022 general election. The next section is the ballot issue summary, which contains the results of the constitutional amendments A and B. In fact, they're at the back of your summary packet too, the constitutional amendments. And just before I even get into the results of that, the way constitutional amendments work is they do need a supermajority. So the for votes don't just need to be greater than the against votes, it needs to be greater than the total ballots cast. And so in this case, the Constitutional Amendment A had passed by receiving 103,389 votes, whereas Constitutional Amendment B did fail. The next section, it's the largest section, 401 pages. That has been more pages in the past, but it's 401. Hopefully you did read through all of those. But anyways, I'll just move on. Those results are organized by county. And again, the totals are at the bottom. Mr. Chairman, at this time, I'd recommend that the board take action on certifying the statewide abstract as the official state canvass.
On that board, your pleasure.
Mr. Chairman,
Auditor Racines.
I would move that we certify the statewide abstract as the official state canvass.
Second?
That move has been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Seems to be unanimous. So that motion is passed and we have an official state canvass at this time. Go ahead, Director.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say that is the end of my presentation. I would certainly be happy to entertain any questions the board may have of me.
Anyone have any questions for Director Sean?
No questions, Mr. Chair, but I would like to take a moment, if I may, just to compliment Guy.
Sure. Go.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First off, Mr. Chairman, I want to compliment you for stepping in and into the office and conducting this election well. And I know it wasn't an easy effort, and I know it took time from your job. That's what people in Wyoming do when they need to. They step up, and I just really want to thank you for your service and commend you for it as well. So that would be my first statement. Kai, it has been, I think I've been at all 8 of those elections, maybe missed one, but I just want to compliment you and your crew for an amazing job. I know a lot of this is conducted by the county clerks, but having the competence in the office and professionalism that your team has always exhibited is where Wyoming is very lucky. And I just want to commend you on really a commendable performance the whole time. And sorry to see you go, but there we are. So thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Mr. Treasurer.
And Kai, I want to thank you for all the help you gave me when I was a state senator, making sure I got my my reports filed on time. And thank your office for helping me get my appointments filed on time and as much as we can in the right manner now. It seemed like there was something that I hadn't seen before, and that was a lot of independents running and particularly the legislative races. Could you go over the qualifications or whatever it takes to get on the ballot? I'm not sure if those are, it really wasn't understood to me that I thought it was a fairly low bar, but could you tell us what those are?
Director.
Mr. Chairman and Treasurer Meyer, so there's a threshold that needs to be met, and so for legislative races, it is 2% of those that voted in that district in the past general election. In a redistricting year, which is what we are in, it's actually based off of registered voters in that district on the day just prior to the primary election. And so that was the number. It was a floating number there for a bit, but it's 2%.
Okay, thank you very much.
Well, seeing no other comments, I want to take a minute. You know, when I came into this office, I said there was two main objectives. One is that our general election went off without a hitch and smoothly. I do believe that we accomplished that, and I'm pretty proud of that, even though that's not due to me. But I also, Kai mentioned the office, and I just want to publicly say that our office has got some of the best, most incredible people in state government. And the work that they put in election night, as I look across the rest of the country and I see people that, you know, here we are over a week after the election and they still don't have results posted. To me, that's absolutely unacceptable. And I want to commend our staff. Every one of our races was posted with the unofficial results before we left the office that night. And, you know, a lot of that goes to the county clerks too. They compiled all of their reports and got them to us in a timely manner. I believe the last one that we received in was at 12:15. And that was very quickly entered into our state website. You know, originally I got some phone calls at the very beginning about why we weren't reporting, and I explained to people that we report the total county as they come in. And, you know, across the entire state, that was a great effort this year, and I'm really proud of the fact that our state beats every other state in the union as far as that. So to our county clerks and to the staff at the secretary's office, you guys deserve all the kudos. You worked hard, and I'm very proud of what came out of this election. So I believe we've reached the end of the agenda, so I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, move to adjourn.